On May 22nd, 1992, Johnny Carson retired after 3 decades behind the iconic late-night desk.
And now, here's Johnny! Here's Johnny!
It was replaced by Jay Leno, who he didn't personally like. He wanted David Letterman, since David Letterman was one of his friends. David Letterman wanted to move into the earlier time slot for his late night spot, which had been broadcasted following Carson's program. After The Tonight Show, and was considered personally by Carson, his opinion was not revealed until several years later. As his natural successor, despite Leno having been Carson's permanent guest host for several years. Letterman, having had his heart set on the earlier time slot in spite of Leno's ratings, success as a recurring substitute host. This ultimately made David Letterman leave NBC, which was Johnny Carson's advice, and he joined a rival network, CBS. Their new program and entry into the late-night television universe, Late Show with David Letterman, airing in the same slot, completed head-to-head against The Tonight Show with Leno in the host chair, and behind with Leno in the and behind that iconic desk for the better part of 2 decades, although Leno consistently enjoyed higher ratings after the first 2 years. On September 27th, 2004, the 50th anniversary of The Tonight Show's premiere, NBC announced that Leno would be succeeded by Conan O'Brien in 2009. The network shocked Leno, who had been consistently number one in the time period when he was told that he would be fired in 5 years. With O'Brien taking over the slot at that time, Leno told his audiences about this unique network decision at the beginning of his next show, mentioning that he had accepted it, noting that he wanted to avoid repeating the hard feeling that had somehow developed with Letterman, and called O'Brien certainly the most deserving person for the job. In the wake of his Leno's eventual departure 5 years later, what was to have been the final episode of The Tonight Show with Leno as host aired on Friday, May 29th, 2009. Not wanting Leno, who remained number one in the ratings, to move to a competing network, like how David Letterman moved over to CBS, a rivaling network, when he didn't get the Tonight Show gig back in, I believe, 92, 93. NBC signed the host to a new contract to host a new primetime talk show beginning in September 2009, and it was called The Jay Leno Show, with a format similar to The Tonight Show, except that he was contractually prohibited from using a desk on the show. In a departure from the network programming conventions of the time, the new show aired every weeknight at 10 p.m. Eastern/Pacific, competing with expansively produced narrative series on other networks, and leading into affirmatives, local news broadcasts, and O'Brien's Tonight Show. This 2009's where the war begins between Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien. A war no one wanted. A war that NBC had made Jay Leno fire the first musket and make sure that Conan O'Brien was the one going down. Conan O'Brien replaced Leno as host on The Tonight Show on Monday, June 1st, from a newly constructed studio inside Stage 1 of the Universal Studios Hollywood Black Backlot, temporarily ending an era since 1972 of recording the show in Burbank. 2010 time slot conflict and Leno's return. The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien and The Jay Leno Show did not immediately receive strong ratings, and NBC's affiliates complained of declining viewership. NBC Universal CEO Jeff Zucker, alongside NBC Chairman Jeff Gaspin, I think they had a lot of Jeffs, and executive Rick Ludwig. So they hired a CEO with the first name Jeff, a chairman with the first name Jeff, and a executive with the first name Rick. Why? You could have the three Jeffs. The three Jeffs going into the rainbow of the sunset light. Created a remedy, return Leno to his 11:35 p.m. ET start time, and bump O'Brien a half hour later to 12:05 ET. O'Brien and his staff were disappointed and furious. When it became clear O'Brien would not agree to the proposed changes, the situation grew heated. Remember, Johnny Carson's dead by this point. Though not a breach of either host contract, the change resulted in a public outcry and public demonstration largely in support of O'Brien. O'Brien's public statement that he would not participate in the destruction of The Tonight Show led to negotiations with NBC for a statement. O'Brien and his staff received $45 million US, equivalent to about $65 million US in 2024. So, what is that today? I'll have to Google it now. to walk away from the network with his final Tonight Show airing January 22nd, 2010. Leno was reinstated as host that March, while after a contractual 7-month ban against appearing on television, O'Brien moved to TBS to host Conan, which was a rival network of NBC. Leno returned to hosting The Tonight Show from 2010 until his retirement in 2014. The controversy surrounding the scheduling move and the reinstatement of Leno was described by media outlets as embarrassing and a public relations disaster for NBC.